So in the life of this one, at a certain point in, I would say, the highest moment of the life, and also a moment of such a deep calling, such an ache, such a longing to know true freedom. So yeah, as you know, the story, I found myself in a situation in Japan, and in a moment, from a moment of being so free and so wild and so like nothing could take this freedom away. Of course it can, because it's relative. So in a moment, I found myself in a situation that had me suddenly thrown into a hell realm, an unimaginable hell realm. And let me say that, where to start with this? Okay, so without any idea and without any plan, a couple of months ago, while I'm here back in England for the first time in 30 years, whatever, I'm here thrown into another situation, not of my wishes, here in England, caring for my father. He asks me to clear out his garden shed and clear out my stuff that's been there for 25 years. So there I go, searching for a book box, and I find this book and I open it. And as I start to read it, all of that just starts moving through my body like it's so alive. It's just, I'm just right in that moment, this moment, same moment, fully experiencing what I'm reading and being here, this moment. So I would say there's no difference between that moment and this moment, except for the play, because it's a never-ending moment. And this is not like a belief, oh, it's always now, you know, it's always now. It's not now, it's always now. No, this is a never-ending moment. Whatever you've experienced in any given moment is here, right here. This is eternal. And this is you. You are eternal, and your body-mind is a memory body. So I started reading this book, and it started happening. It was so powerful that I wasn't expecting. I just found this book, and I sent a few pages to Joanne, who's the magic wand behind this all this online work I am sharing. I send her a few pages, and she just goes, "Wow! Send me photographs of the pages. We'll make this into a book." And bum, 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 bum. It was like a happening without a doer. And she said to me, "This can go public." And I was like, And without any thinking, I just went with it. And I could only read this book for 2-3 pages at a time, because it was just so down the deep dark alley, yeah. But what was really amazing to me was that I was writing it all from a place of seeing. Going through hell, experiencing all kinds of everything, on the emotional, on the psychological, and then having great openings, of glory and surrender and all of that, and then diving into a whole nother level of psychological hell and emotional, but all the time speaking as what I knew at that time to be the witness, the witness. So in this unimaginable situation, which was, I was on trial. I didn't know what was going to be the result of that. I was 4.5 months in a foreign country, which is a mad country. And in this process, I was in solitary confined. So during this period of being on trial, I could only speak this by pouring it out onto paper, a daily account of what I was living without any filters. Without any filters at all. And yeah, that's like really exposure. That's really like, or you know, you write the most private thing with all the corners of things that you will never tell to anybody, showing all the parts of you that are weak and small and vulnerable and scared, and all those parts, as well as the seeing through those parts and the knowing of the knowing. I knew from that moment, the moment those cuffs went round my wrist, I knew this was my time. There was a knowing. There was a knowing so deep. It's that knowing which is deep in you. That knowing which is a knowing which doesn't reach to the psychological, but it's knowing which is deep. And in that moment when I was raided and those 15 guys came rushing in from everywhere into my flat. The thing was in my flat for 5 days only. I was looking after it. And they all came rushing in and they scrambled everywhere. They found it and the cuffs went round my wrist. And I was looking in the eyes of Osho, which funny enough, just by coincidence, the very photo I was looking to is right there. I didn't put it there. Anyway, it's all the play of the play of the play. It's all so magnificent. In that moment, I looked into Osho's eyes. I was a fresh sannyasin. I was surrendered to the master. I looked into the eyes and I kept practicing the thought, they're not going to find it. They're not going to find it. They're not going to find it. And the knowing was so deep that this was my time. This was my time to die from the world. That this would be the time that everything was over of my life as I knew it. It was a knowing so deep in my gut, like in the very solar plexus, the deep, 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 it was just like a knowing. Whatever you want to call it, soul, whatever you want to call it, was like, this, I'm here for this. Yeah. All the other levels were screaming. So, but this knowing was most dominant. Right in the beginning, it was most dominant. All the voices didn't have a say. It was just, boom, this is for me. So, in those few months that I was on trial and all those psychological levels were trying everything to change things and go back, which was, of course, impossible. And I went through every level of what a human physical, emotional can go through. The dark night, it was the dark night. And this knowing was there at the same time, and this was all being poured onto paper. Never did I imagine that this should become a book that goes public. you know, it's the last thing. It's the last thing. Somehow it's like I just said yes when Joanne said to me, "This is a book. This is like what's so powerful about this is you're writing from awareness." Even if at that moment there was not a clear, there was understanding, but there was not a shift of identification where I was knowing myself as the awareness in which all this is happening. I had moments where I was going purely into that and fully into that and fully into that and fully into that. And I was naming all of that. So even I didn't realize that what I was looking for was already here, with it, right in the midst of all this. I didn't realize that bit. But within that, those few months, which was really excruciating to what I walked through, you know, humiliating on many levels. There was a surrender during that time. Once the sentencing came and I had to die to the world and go into this process where I was for the next couple of years or more solitary confined in silence and in excruciating conditions that I couldn't imagine would be much worse than what I was already in. However, there was no way back. And what is so powerful about sharing this is that it's not my mind, it's not my emotions, it's not my secrets or my psychological process. It's the human psyche. It's the hell realm, which in deeply challenging moments, it's coming now. What's so powerful about this is that I never had any way to turn away from the process. So I had to look into all the deeper layers of my subconscious to see where I was lying to myself, where I wasn't true to myself. To see all the secret little bits that were hidden in my unconscious process, which the majority of people never get to see because they're in distraction all the time. There's always something they can turn away to. The nowadays with computer and this whole world, there's distraction to go, so much distraction to move away from. So they don't actually get to look at what's under this and what's under that and what's under this and what's under that. So this was a natural process happening there, and eventually, yeah, I went off to this prison, and I went on to a longer period of suffering, worse than it was when I wrote that, and after a year or so, there was a shift. There was a shift in the identification of all of that was working. It was like the thing that was constant, 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 constant. The seeing and the being. While hell was running its show, one thing just couldn't be disturbed and one thing couldn't be taken away. When you lost absolutely everything, when you got nothing left to lose, what is left? You will only know that when all else is lost. And you see what remains. And when you see what remains, you no longer try to get there because it's what is. It is what remains. I didn't have all this non-duality rap. I had Osho at that time and deep devotion and surrender to the transmission. So there was a moment come where I couldn't find anything here anymore other than this being aware. Psychological process going on like mad. Hell still running, but I couldn't find anything here other than being aware that could be taken or could be, nothing more could hurt. Everything was already hurt. Everything was already done. Everything was already smashed to pieces. And I was left with this being aware, which was really like, it's just, I start to notice, you know, what we don't notice on a daily basis is what we give value to. And that's probably why I'm always speaking of the value. I'm always speaking in my work, in my retreats, in my sharings. I'm always pointing to the value. Because do you even know what it is to value a breath of fresh air? Do you know what it is to appreciate looking at the sky, even? These things are so taken for granted until they're not. The simplicity. All these things that have real depth and real value are overlooked, constantly being overlooked by millions of more interesting so life, which is what you are, is calling itself home through you. And that may rock your world. It may have you in difficulty. It may have you in situations that break you down. And I say this lightly. It only breaks you down because you need to be broken down. For to get the point on a few things. For to get the point. For to get the point. For to get the point. You're not who you thought you were. You cannot rely on anything except what you really are. It's the only reliable, it's the only thing, no thing, always here. It's the only untouchable, it's the only cannot be hurt. It's the only, it's what survives it all. And it will survive the death of this body. And the whole of this life is about realizing that. realizing that is not even enough. Realizing that and bowing down to that realization. Bowing down to what you realize. Your values completely change. We are in a collective awakening. Now, when I was deported in 1997, when I was deported back to England, I came out to a madhouse. I mean, literally seeing people running everywhere, going everywhere, looking at their watch, doing things and talking all kinds of nonsense. Where are they going? How am I going to relate in this world? How can I take me back there? Because to be here in this, I can't even have a conversation with anyone. Where? What? Oh no. Came another kind of hell. It changed forever. There was no way back. And yet there was and is having to integrate whatever has been realized in that deep shift of identity. A lot of confusion followed that. How to be in this world, how to relate to people, all this personality is rising again. All these patterns, I'm seeing them come, but oh my God, I'm not that. But they're playing out all by themselves. And they have all kind of feelings. What now? What now? What am I supposed to? Still, in those moments, still, I didn't have the clarity. I didn't have the clarity. I was just shifted into this placeless place of existence, knowing itself without any naming for that. Not say, oh, I'm awakened. No. Nobody to say that. Only existence, knowing itself, seeing all these arisings, going, oh no, I cannot step back. No, that's not true. That's not me. That's not me. Huh? And then, so a lot of confusion and pain in that, because how to be in this world. I don't know how many years ago that is, 22 years. There was nobody having the conversations they're having now. So an integration, a walking and learning how to be in this world. And it is amazing. It is amazing the unfolding that's taking place. Even that we sit here, I'm sharing this with you, and I'm going to let this book, and I don't even know why, I just know that it's a true movement. It is really not like something that I'm carrying, something I have to release because it's a burden. Then I'm going to be more free. No. This is a movement that life is moving. And it is like nothing to hide. And I went back and forth as to whether there's even a value in sharing this. And I shared it with a few people. And I feel like if you are available to read those pages and be with that process and use it to look what moves, how those things move in yourself. It can be of value. And I see so many now in my working with people and what's taking place on a bigger scale now. I see the dark night. There are so many struggling in the facing of the psychological, emotional difficulty. The dark night, as far as I'm concerned, has been a really important part of this life. And even if I could, I wouldn't change a single, even if there was a way back, I wouldn't change. Because that's what I came here for. And I knew in the moments of even being there in that writing that, I knew it was for something else. And it's for this. I couldn't sit with people in the darkest night in the way that's been made here to do. I've been made new for that, to sit with people in the deepest struggle. Only because you truth itself, self-realization is not something that we come to an understanding. The books are wonderful. You know, that's all I had in jail. That's all I had. And I had a deep, deep devotional and surrender to, at that time in my life, the Master. So his transmission, I was reading 1 or 2 pages every day. The transmission of that was going in direct, and that was opening. So it was really powerful. That was life. Yeah. The books can be powerful if received in that way, but then of course you have to then go through your own experience with what is realized. It's not just like, oh, you read it, you get it, you hear it, you touch it, you taste it, yes. You all then have to go through your experience in this life for it to become you, yours as in self-realized in a body, being made new constantly. You have to then go through. And life will provide all that it provides for you to go through and put what you realized, understood, seen into the truth of what you walk. There's no other way. And I bow to life. I bow to the perfection. I bow to life's gifts. And that was a hard battering that turned out to be a gift. Yet I still pay the price for that in this body. Yeah, this body is not meant to last. As you know, it's not a surprise. This body is not meant to last. It's a temporary thing, and it gets knocked along the way. It gets hit, and it's part of the return home.